Back at it, and what a time. What a time to be a Warrior. To be a Warrior. These guys are rolling, and it looks like a good week to be a Warrior, too. This is the Weekly Warriors board where we pick them who will beat the Warriors this week. Kashif, you've been making the most boldest claims this show, so we'll let you go first.
I'm going to tell you, one of two teams. It's either going to be the Washington Wizards
Yep.
or the Utah Jazz, but I'm putting my money on the Utah Jazz.
Bennett.
Well, no one's beating them. If
Thank
there
you.
was going to be a team, it would be the Jazz. Second night of a back-to-back, changing time zones, but no one's beating them.
Peak.
I third that, if that
Third
even
that?
makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does.
No, but
Don't touch it.
exactly. No,
All right.
but it's true though. Like you look, the other team I would have put in consideration would be Dallas, but they no longer have Parsons. He's out for this road trip with the knee injury. So no Parsons. That completely changes their lineup. The second night of a back-to-back, it's got to be the Jazz, if anybody.
Breaking records, yes, 72-10, better than?
No.
Nope, they're not breaking the record.
No, not at all. These guys aren't the Bulls, man.
Hey.
73-9.
They're breaking it, yeah.
Okay, all right. Let's move on. Now, the next story is a story that we spent a lot of time in our production meeting figuring out exactly how to approach because it's a very sensitive topic. And it involves also my favorite team. The Los Angeles Lakers have two players, and they have been accused of being in a vehicle with allegedly four gentlemen. These four gentlemen verbally assaulted a young lady, Alexis Jones, and her mother, who eventually took a picture of the people who were doing the alleged assault, a verbal assault. And what's also interesting about this entire scenario is that Alexis Jones is a young lady, part of a program trying to educate professional athletes across the board on sexual harassment and conduct. Alexis Jones then tweeted out the picture and asked people to find out who are these gentlemen. Alexis Jones is also a student who spent time at USC when guys were there. And the real story here is she was offered an opportunity to meet with the Lakers to discuss this, and because of scheduling conflicts, she wasn't able to make it. First off, when you hear about the story, what did you think? Donnovan, I'll start with you. What was your initial impression when you heard the story?
I thought it was a sign of the times, twofold. And one, if this happens 20, 30 years ago, it's just a story that's told. There's no document, there's no evidence. So these guys are targets in a way that they never were before. One, that they have to be in check and treat people the way anyone would want to be treated. But two, if this story isn't what she presents, just seeing someone, knowing how much they make and how the league's going to come down on them, they are targets in a way that they can get hit up with stuff like that. So it is really a sign of the times on both sides.
Kashif, your thoughts?
I mean, kudos to the Lakers for trying to bring everyone together to talk about it, discuss about it. I thought they handled it really well. I hope they get that meeting and get it together because there's three sides to a story. There's her side, their side, and the truth. And I hope we can figure out the truth and, even just educate more people on social media about sexual harassment and how it shouldn't be around the
All right,
game.
Meg, I'm glad we have you on the panel because we're all guys and we don't really understand the perspective that a young lady would have on a situation like this. And you yourself being a beautiful young lady, living in the city, working in the game, you have your own perspective. So please, teach us something here.
I'm laughing because it's one of those situations where it's uncomfortable because you never want a situation like this to happen. You feel for the two players in Young and Clarkson, but at the same time, like Donnovan said, like they're targets. As the moment they became professional athletes and signed those rookie contracts, they became targets. The disappointing thing is that if she's an activist for women and teaching professional athletes, she says she goes into different athletes' homes, different teams' facilities to educate the athletes, educate the organizations. If that's what you do and you're an activist, you should have cleared your schedule to have this meeting. If you are so passionate about this, you should have cleared your schedule to have the meeting the moment they offered to have a meeting with you to talk with them. So it's one of those things where you wonder why she couldn't make time available if you're an activist about this, but then you also want to know what they even said. Like Kashif said, there's her side, their side, and the truth. And it's, in a way, it's disgusting if it is true because it was directed at her 68-year-old mother.
Yeah.
Like,
That's rough.
mind you, her mom's probably a beautiful woman. Don't get me wrong. I have no issue with that. But these are two young 20-something-year-old boys. Keyword is boys because they are still figuring this out. Thrown in the spotlight, they've got to be smarter.
Well, I expect more from Swaggy P, though. He's a bit more mature than Jordan.
True.
He should be a leader.
We should remember as well that we don't know if her legal team advised her
That's the
Yes.
caveat.
not
Yes.
to meet at
Yeah.
this point because it could set things up.
And that's
That was
trust.
that's
that
some
was
of the
never put out there. Yeah.
That's
Right.
some of the temperament of America generally. It's a litigious society.
Sure
They
it
love
is.
to go to court. But something that myself and Dwayne were wrestling with too, and it's something that comes up when you're conversing about this is you don't want to vilify the victim. But there have been so many stories that have come out like that it's almost you have to handle this with kid-proof gloves. So how difficult do you think it is for the media? Because I've seen stories where they kind of put her in a position where she
Yep.
has to defend her own claims as opposed to focusing the light on the situation.
That's the downside to whether it's verbal sexual harassment, physical sexual harassment, or just whatever type of harassment you're talking about when it comes to a female and a male accuser. The female accuser who's accusing that male is usually always vilified, unfortunately. Even if it is true, when it's proven to be true, because again, these are all just allegations. We have to make sure that everybody realizes that is that once it's proven true or not, she is continued to be vilified. And that's the downside to it. That's the downside to a justice system that is supposed to be in favor of the victim and the accuser. And that's the unfortunate part. But the one thing I didn't like was in the situation, the Lakers handled it quickly. I thought that in the situation, they would have sat Nick Young and Jordan Clarkson that night for the game. They played this week. After these allegations came out, I thought it would have been smart to maybe have them sit for that game just to kind of show support for her until the whole thing is figured out.
It's a slippery slope because
Yeah.
as we see the Duke lacrosse case,
Yes.
That
great
30 for 30.
ESPN 30 for 30, things came out and it wasn't exactly the case. So now because of the
Past
NFL
history.
and what's happened, Roger Goodell saying, I'm going to start to rule without the judicial process. Now there's a rush to judge in all sports, and the public outcry comes immediately. So you could have guys sitting out when they didn't do anything wrong, or you could have guys going out and playing, and your fan base saying, do you want to stand in lockstep with them? It's tough on all sides.
And
What would you-
social media doesn't help.
No.
It definitely doesn't. But is there anything positive that can come out of this? Can the league do something? Can something good come out of that meeting, Megan, maybe?
I would say yes. If she is the activist that she says she is, and she has the connections to the different organizations that she works with, I think she should utilize that once things are figured out, whether it's the meeting, the litigations, whatever it may be, and work with the NBA and the organizations that she works with to educate the entire league, teams, and on this type of thing.
Okay, all right. Well, that wraps up a very heavy and loaded segment of this show. We're thankful that we do get to broach such real topics from time to time. And now, back to basketball. When we return here on Canada's Home for Talking Hoops, we got to talk about the Houston Rockets. Space City, Clutch City. Dwight Howard's cheating. That's why he can't hit his free throws. Stick him? Really? What is this, baseball?